Welcome to another edition of Art of the Kickstart. Today, I am super excited because I am talking with Chris Noyes, a serial brand builder, animal lover who obsesses over thoughtfully built products. He is the co-founder and CEO of Pet Object, which is a product company with the focus on objects designed with the pet in mind. Collectively, the founding team brings over 60 years of experience in the branded consumer goods space. Let's welcome everybody, Chris Noyes. Thank you for joining us today on Art of the Kickstart.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk because you've been a longtime client of ours at Inventus Partners, not only from the launching of your active Kickstarter campaign that's going on right now. So for all those listeners, go check out Pet Object on Kickstarter. But also you've been working with us from an engineering standpoint. So really I want to, talk about all of those things and kind of the idea and the evolution that it's gone through. But before we dive into all of that, Chris, let's give our audience the elevator pitch on your product and what it's all about.
Yeah, no worries. For me, I've always been kind of a design-oriented guy. So I look at all objects, no matter what they are, pet-related, automobile, interior design. I like thoughtfully designed quality objects. And being a cat owner, I looked at my home and I spent all this time doing the interior design focus of it. And when it came to litter boxes, everything was an eyesore. So just like most entrepreneurs, it's a problem that arose to me personally, and I set out to fix it. But it took a long time. To your point, it took almost 10 years. So, everything that we do, we want it to be high design, well built, very functional, and being able to fit in a multitude of homes.
So how did this idea come to market? What was the inspiration around it? I mean, it's a beautifully designed product. And I think that's kind of that blend of your background, right? In terms of not only it being a functional piece for the pet, cat in this instance, at least initially, yeah, but it is like an art piece almost in the home as well. So how did you go about, one, with the concept and then the evolution of the design itself, which I think is really beautiful?
Yeah, I mean, it truly was one of those, napkin drawing scenarios. I tried 2 or 3 products on the market, low budget, plastic. I did always gravitate to the 2-piece construction. For me, I thought it was better served because obviously the cats make messes and it's very visual and you can see it from across the room. So having this top portion kind of hid that. So I had something that was kind of igloo shaped. It was out there. So I kind of riffed on this is the shape, the size. And I saw the shape that we made, and I can barely pronounce it. It's like dihectagon or something crazy. And I don't even know because it's so hard to pronounce. We don't even are forward facing with it. And so I started drawing it out on a sketch. And at that point I started looking at the size and shape of it, and learned pretty quickly that I'd have to meet someone that knew CAD and could get industrial design and bring it to life in a 3D. So, the project or the item that you see right now is the shape is kind of how I drew it. But obviously that's as far as I got personally. I'm not an artist by any means or an industrial designer. So that next step was meeting an industrial designer before I met your crew. And, we got pretty far down the pathway. He pointed out some things on structural integrity and, things that I never thought I'd have to know going into litter box design. And it was cool to understand, thicknesses, material type, just, how this thing would exist out in space. But it's a big learning curve, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I think that learning curve, stops potentially a lot of entrepreneurs from really going through and following through with their idea, right? They just have the idea, and lots of people have ideas, but truly the execution side of this, I mean, this has been something, like you said, almost 10 years in the making. And I know from an engineering standpoint, it was interesting, just looking at all of the iterations that it's gone through. And, as we were talking before the show started, it's like, building a mini spaceship, right? Yeah. What were some of those things that got you over those hurdles to get it to the next step, to finally build that first prototype? Because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know there's a lot of listeners that really need that push and that confidence builder potentially to kind of get onto that next step.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like seeing it in 3D form. You have it in your mind and you see even the most detailed CAD drawing, no matter how sophisticated it is. it gets exciting when you see that. But, our first one, once we had the specs, was out of cardboard, but even seeing it out of cardboard and seeing it like live in real life, then you get like an understanding of like the size and scale of it. I had that feeling, and, just you see it and I'm like, this is going to work. This is it. Like it feels, we have to keep going, So that cardboard moment was probably the first big milestone for us. And then, then we got into, okay, what does it look to make a prototype? And it's not cheap, it's thousands of dollars. And, but we all felt collectively that it was a strong enough design that, is timeless in nature and needed actually in the space. So we did move forward with that first 3D design. And that's when you see it in that, like a rapid prototype kind of plastic. It's not like a commercial grade plastic, but you can use it, but it's pretty brittle. But you can start to like interact with it and understand the functionality of it. And that's where it got really exciting, but really daunting, because there's all sorts of weird little nuances, from like weight distribution from front to back to sound closure to just things you would never even understand. And I'm maniacal by nature with product, so yep. There's some people that, that could go to market probably as is, and it could have been okay. But, for me, it was important to vet out every single small little like nuance and make sure it was fundamentally perfect.
Why was that important to you, Chris? Because I think, again, for our listeners' sake, some of them are launching prototypes that kind of look Frankenstein-ish, and the backers just don't support it, right? They don't necessarily believe in the product yet because it's not far enough along, where Pet Object is fully functional, ready to go, going to ship, all of those things that aid in the consumer confidence of the idea.
It's a great question. And I think, my background of building brands, it's one thing I've always understood is the LTV, like the lifetime value of a customer. It's like you only get that one shot for them to unbox your product for the first time and use it. Yep. And for us as a brand and a company, we want to stand for something that people will come back no matter what object we launch in the future. And because they always know it stands for quality, functionality, and product. And most of those little things that you hone on and fix, the consumer never even knows because they're already vetted. They've already been thought out, and it should just be a seamless user experience when they use the box. So, for us, that's kind of the pillars of our company. Is we want to make sure it's easy. Quality stands the test of time, and it's not just about like a hype brand with a non-defendable product. We want to be product first for sure.
Speaking of product, I got to know how'd you come up with the name? Because I know the cat, the current first product launch isn't going to be the only one.
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's like, getting into the modern age and like understanding SEO and, words that are searched a lot, like obviously like litter box and, pets, like those was already taken. Something that always like object of my affection, and we all, our cats and dogs and our animals are part of that, they're so important in our life. So I just combined two words that are frequently Googled, and that was pet and object, and just happened to like go to GoDaddy and look, and it was there. So I pounced on it, and then I held the social for 5, 6, 7 years. I think I've had it all, from Facebook and Instagram and the URL. So I just tried to approach it that way, and then it seemed like something that it's simple and easy and digestible, and people know it's an object that for pets.
I love it. I love a good SEO keyword rich business name too.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what advice would you give yourself at the beginning of this process, now knowing what you know?
That is a good question. I think, I was always kind of like determined no matter what the stakes, I'm going to do it, So I think I probably would have done it faster, because I will say from inception, when I had it almost a decade ago, there's a couple guys who come on the market, and make some great products. At the time that I really had the idea, there was no competitive landscape. So there's a few more competitors. So I think letting it be something that you're going to attack like at least every day or weekly, spend time, because it's so easy, when you're not getting paid for it and it's a passion project, to just months fly by, a year flies by. I probably would have said like, get it to market quicker.
Okay. So you've had a lot of time working with the engineering team in our California office and everybody out there. Talk about some of the engineering difficulties that have come out of this and some of those learnings that you have that might be applicable to our audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think with everything, there's the pros and cons of understanding, like from an engineering mindset, I'm purely creative, like structural rigidity is something like never even dawned on me, and like I said earlier, the weight distribution, I remember specifically the first prototype, we were putting the top lid on, and it didn't sit right in his fingers. And he's like, this is going to be a bad user experience. And like that sort of just deep set knowledge of understanding of like human usability was just insane, And so I think if you're going to do something that's a technical product, it's always great to have an engineerial mind as well as a creative mind together. It's a great yin yang for sure.
So why should a cat lover, cat owner get Pet Object?
Yeah, I mean, it's outside of just the functional attributes it has, just same as everyone on the market. So, no true crazy tech innovation there, but I truly believe it's one of the most beautiful litter boxes on the planet. And if that's important to you, I know it's not for everyone, but if it's truly your design minded interior design, you put the same sort of thought in your sofa, you should put it in your litter box. I mean, it's right there. It's cool to make a conversation piece of something that's usually hidden, most of the time these things are hidden in a bathroom or a garage, but it's kind of cool to have it front and center right when you walk in the door and people like actually ask about it, and then when they figure out what it is, it's a whole nother story.
Absolutely. So speaking of stories, I got to know, what was your first introduction to crowdfunding and what made you choose, to launch Pet Object with Kickstarter?
Yeah, so this is the first thing I've ever kickstarted. I bought a project, Transparent Speaker, is out of Stockholm, beautiful speaker. Took 2 years to get, so I learned like
Yeah,
this isn't, it's going to happen. It can take literally, I moved in that 2 years, so I had to change the address. It was coming from another country. You're getting into updates, which can be a little nerve wracking, but I also liked just the entrepreneurship and the people that are backing and understand how hard it is to bring a product to nature. And it's hard to get brand awareness. It's one of the most difficult things for a new brand. It's a pay to play game now. So I think it's a great platform to get your product out there and have a pretty broad brand awareness out the gates instead of that tried and true takes years to build awareness.
absolutely. Well, I know the campaign just launched not even a week ago. Dozens of backers, already 10,000, more than 10K raised so far. So for all those listeners out there, go check out Pet Object. With that, Chris, this is going to get us into our launch round where I'm going to rapid fire a handful of questions at you. You good to
Okay,
go?
let's do it. Let's do this.
Let's do this. All right. So what inspired you to be an entrepreneur?
I don't know if anything inspired me. I think you're born into it, man. I think it's just in you. You either have it or you don't.
Fair enough. If you could meet any entrepreneur throughout history, who would you want to share a cup of coffee with?
I think Jobs. You
It's
know,
Jobs. All right.
yeah.
What would have been your first question for him?
I think how hard is it to stay on course, from a design level, even though that your investors are asking for something that's more mass scale and just really believing in what you think is right, even though the time trajectory doesn't align with your investment. I don't know if it's too long of an answer for the rapid round, but for me, he always stayed true to what he believed in product design wise, and that's huge.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you on that one. What's a good book that you would recommend to our entrepreneurial listeners?
Oh man, believe it or not, dude, I am not a reader.
Okay. How about a
So
blog or a website to stay up to date
yeah,
on design trends?
yeah, learn. I mean, so I'm so visual that it's really tough for me, to like read books. So Uncrate is one that I deal with constantly. It's like they're launching new products from every sector, every category type. So Uncrate.com is amazing.
Absolutely. All the fun gadgets. I feel like that's like James Bond's newsletter.
It's 100%.
All right. What advice would you give to a new inventor or entrepreneur that's looking to launch their product?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing you can do is just stay on course and do what you believed in, and there's going to be ups and downs for sure, and there's going to be hurdles, but if you truly believe in it, just stick with it, and ultimately the outcome should always be positive.
Nice. Speaking of staying on course, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years?
I really hope we have, another 4 or 5 objects, under the Pet Object name. These things take a long time to build, but, I always looked at this company having, objects for all sorts of pets. So, I'd love to be fully functioning and have a full staff and, have distribution out there for the world to see Pet Object in person.
Amazing. Chris, last question in the launch round. I know you've backed one campaign and you just launched your first one. So I got to know, what does the future of crowdfunding look like?
Phew. Um, it's speeding up. I think there's an interesting component to like everyone feeling truly a part of the brand. I know there's like is a crowdfunding proponent of investment and having equity, but really bringing those people to forward facing and um, picking their brains and to really know what your consumer wants before you go to market. I mean, that's can't be overstated enough. There's understanding through surveying. Is there a product market fit? In our heads, there always is. But it's great to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, this has been amazing. This is your chance to speak directly to our audience. Give them your pitch, tell them what you're all about and where people should go and why they should check out Pet Object.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, you won't be disappointed. Years and years and years went into development of this product. We hope everyone appreciates as much as we do. I think best in class quality, craftsmanship, it's seamless usability, and I hope you enjoy the company as much as we do. So please support us, petobject.com, or go to Kickstarter and Pet Object.
Amazing. Audience, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to visit artofthekickstart.com for the notes, transcript, links to the campaign, everything else we talked about today. And of course, big shout out to our crowdfunding podcast sponsor over at Product Hype, the top newsletter for new products that just launched. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today on Art of the Kickstart.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.